Update. Am I the a-hole for asking my boyfriend to stop sharing everything with my sister? Original story. Hi, I'm 24 female and have been dating my boyfriend, 26 male, for 5 years now. We grew up together as neighbors and were friends for a couple years before dating. I love him so much, and I want to marry him. His family's great and I adore them all, and it's great with my family too. He also formed a great relationship with my sister, 21 female. But the issue is that I think their bond is too close. My boyfriend and I live together, but he spends a lot of time with her. Albeit I'm sort of busy. I'm currently in grad school for engineering, so I have to go to my classes. My boyfriend works full-time. My sister is currently taking a gap year, but that 1 year has extended from when she was 18. She comes over when I'm in seminars/classes. They have tons of inside jokes and share the same sense of humor and taste in movies. It makes me feel left out. But when I try to include myself, they both stop being so enthusiastic and acting like it's super awkward to have me there. My sister and I were close growing up, but started drifting when I went to uni. When my boyfriend isn't there and I talk to her, she becomes kinda cold and sometimes says rude things. Once, she told me to my face that I'm not good enough for him, that he deserves better, which made me cry for a couple days. He also gets her gifts for the most random achievements. Like, he got her a present for making it through the week. Even though she doesn't do anything as she isn't currently working or trying to pursue a hobby or interest, she's just taking it easy. Her own words. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad my boyfriend and my sister are friends. But my major problem is that my boyfriend tells her everything. Literally everything. He tells her things he doesn't tell me and talks to her about me and our relationship. She knows all our issues and good parts, to a level of detail that I wouldn't even tell my closest friends or parents. She even knows the grades I got in my midterm/finals and what I think about my manager. I work part-time to contribute to our apartment, but I also get paid for my research, which goes towards our needs as well, which I feel is unnecessary for her to know since I didn't tell her myself. I asked him to step back a bit and stop telling her things about me and our relationship, but he was shocked and told me that I'm an a-hole for even requesting it. Now I feel guilty. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, but I'm 90% certain your sister and boyfriend are hooking up while you're in class. I'm 100% certain. I reserve 10% that they're just having an emotional affair, but sister at the very least would like it to be more. And when it tells you that someone deserves better than their current partner is talking about themselves. Not the a-hole. They're both grossly out of line and are at minimum having an emotional affair. Kick them both to the curb. I don't see how this is salvageable. I wrote way too many lines in my judgment where emotional affair would have cut it. Think you hit the nail on the head. Who is he in a relationship with? You or your sister or both? There are so many red flags here that I would be taking a serious look at your relationship. Keeps OP for money and the sister is a side chick to bang when OP is at home at this point. The level of we know each other very well is very unsettling, and it sounds like an emotional affair. However, I think there is more to it. OP needs to take a step back and find out. Edit. Thank you all for your responses and advice. You've literally made me reconsider everything that I thought I knew. The consensus is that there is something shady going on with my boyfriend and my sister, which just makes me want to vomit. I'm now reading into every interaction and conversation, and I feel so naive for not noticing the red flags. I'm going to take your guys' suggestions and set up some nanny cams in my apartment. Either way, it'll be good security. If nothing happens, then it'll be reassuring. And if something does happen, well, I'll deal with that after. I'm going to drive to the store right now to pick up the cameras. I'll try to update soon, hopefully with positive news. And now for the update. Hi everyone, I have an update. Unfortunately, it's a bad one. But fortunately, I didn't have to wait very long to get it. So the last update I posted was before I went to go get some nanny cams. I set up the cams at the hidden spots in our bedroom and living room area in our apartment. Today happens to be my birthday. Yay for 25. And Debbie, my close friend 25 female, wanted to take me for a day trip yesterday. My boyfriend agreed and said that we do something the next day, on my birthday. I told him I'd be out from 8 a.m. and I'd be home by 8 or 9 p.m. after Debbie and I finished dinner. Debbie took me out, but she noticed I was feeling a bit off. I was still thinking about the overwhelming number of responses telling me that something shady was going on, so I ended up spilling everything while we were eating lunch. Debbie was outraged on my behalf and agreed that something was off. She asked if I wanted to cut our day short and drop back home to see if anything was happening, and convinced me, saying that it's better to find out today than tomorrow. Yes, I realized we could have just checked the nanny cams, but for some reason we forgot about them in the moment. I'm kind of glad I didn't check, because I would have started ugly crying in public. I'm guessing most of you know what happened, as it's so predictable that I'm kicking myself afterwards for not realizing. We drove back home around 4 p.m. and it caught them literally in the act. Why were they doing it at 4 p.m.? I don't even know. We just kind of stood there with my arms folded, and I hope with a badass resting B face on, although maybe it was more a trying not to cry face. My boyfriend gave me a whole "it was an accident" spiel. I just ignored him and started packing my things. Thank God our lease was up for renewal within the month. He begged me and eventually yelled at me for packing up. The funny thing is, I bought most of the furniture and supplies. So me, being slightly petty, packed as much as I could. Debbie helped me and we loaded everything up in her car. We left some stuff that couldn't fit, but I'll go back for that later. The whole time, my sister was sitting stoically wrapped in a robe in my couch. My poor couch. We went back to Debbie's house and I had a breakdown. Debbie, the angel that she is, provided me with ice cream and fuzzy blankets. My boyfriend spammed me with calls and texts, ranging from "I'm sorry," "please forgive me," "I love you." It was only one time, to "this wasn't my fault, you should have been home more." Predictable. We decided to check the recordings, and lo and behold, it was definitely not just once. I'm really sad that the sister who used to bake cupcakes and do karaoke with me could betray me this badly. My boyfriend, well, he was my first, and in hindsight, he didn't really contribute much anyways. I spent yesterday kind of rotating through being devastated, angry, and self-righteous, but today Debbie pampered me all day, so it wasn't so bad. Thanks for everyone's support, and I hope that everyone has a good day. So after I wrote this all up and sent it to the mods, I went back to enjoying the rest of my birthday and Debbie kept me distracted. I left my second laptop. It's an old, slow laptop, and when I upgraded, I still kept it. At my apartment. Turns out I had my email and stuff still signed in, and my now ex-boyfriend messed with it, and I lost access to my emails and the original throwaway Reddit account. But I did send what I had written to myself beforehand, so that's why I can update here. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see this, but I hope you can. Edit. Also, I forgot to add, but I wrote up the actual update portion 2 days ago. Lol, it's not my birthday anymore, but yeah, hopefully that puts into context. Currently, I've been staying with my friend and I've blocked both my ex-boyfriend and my ex-sister. To be honest, it's a huge weight off my back, and I know this won't affect me forever. I'm so sorry, Opie, but I'm so glad you found out before something serious such as marriage or children. Your sister and ex are a-holes that deserve each other. I hope you tell your family as well. I can't believe how awful they are. I wish you success and happiness. Also, happy birthday. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I know this wasn't the outcome you hoped for, but your life is much better off without either one. What your sister did was lower than low. I don't see how anyone can look at their sibling's significant other and see a potential intimate partner. So sorry to hear this. At least you know now. If I were you, I would never forgive my ex-sister or ex-boyfriend, or ever talk to either of them again. They don't deserve to be in your life. Next story. Am I the a-hole for denying my brother a share in our childhood home? When I was 18 and my brother was 22, we found out our mom had an affair the early years of my parents' marriage. My dad was clueless about this too. She ended up leaving our dad and revealed he wasn't our bio father. Her affair partner was, and DNA confirmed this was true. Our dad was there for us, and for a few months things seemed like they would stay relatively normal. But then my brother decided it felt bad for the guy who didn't know we existed and wanted a relationship. He started treating our dad as a bank instead of a dad. Dad paid for him to meet our bio father, and then my brother acted like he was supposed to pay for other stuff for them. My dad said no. He said he didn't want to pay for anything for that man. My brother told him it wasn't for bio dad, it was for him. That he is his son, and as a father he should put his hurt aside for him. When the bio dad was made homeless, my brother expected my dad to pay for him to rent a place. My dad said no, and that was the start of an estrangement that lasted until my dad died a couple of years ago. The estrangement continued for so long because at age 26, my brother had our bio father adopt him again because he felt bad. He tried to pressure me to do the same, but I didn't meet the dude. My brother wanted me to, but as I told him, it held no interest to me. The man died 7 years ago, and he was broken up about it, especially because I showed no grief at all and told him it didn't upset me at all. It was after our dad died that my brother really started to feel guilt. Dad kept our childhood home and he left it all to me. Our brother used to love that house, as it was where he went through a lot as a kid, and he asked if I would split that in half with him and let him buy it one day. I said no, that I wanted to live there, and after everything he didn't deserve to just inherit his half like he did treat our dad like crap. He told me I was an A for punishing him so much, that he has suffered enough because of it, and he has to live with the consequences. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. He is absolutely right. He has to live with the consequences of his actions, and this is one of them. Guilt is not a consequence, it is a decision. It never means you should be absolved of all the real-life consequences. Top commenter is right. This is absolutely what he should have to deal with. Well, if it isn't the consequences of their own actions. It's cool that he likes the inanimate object your dad built up. Shame that he was such a horrible person to the guy who literally raised you two. Your brother sounds like a manipulative a-hole. That's how he was those years after finding out. He would manipulate and try to use guilt to get what he wanted. To the point it pushed too far and our dad decided he was done. My brother really disappointed me. Info. Is he written into the will to inherit half, or is he just demanding it? He used to be. I think Dad changed his will after my brother chose to be adopted by bio father. If the house is solely yours, he's got no say or right to demand anything. There's no sentimental value here for him. As always, from what you said, it's just another monetary value. And I think your dad was beyond nice to him to put up with this nonsense when you were younger. Just make sure the will is ironclad so he can't contest it. There is sentimental value for him. The house used to mean more to him than me. Maybe it still does to a point. But my dad made sure it was mine, and mine alone. And he can't even contest a legal kid because he was adopted by the bio. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving after I found out my brother wasn't home? I'm 25 female, finished my master's degree this past spring, and decided to move back to my hometown to be closer to my parents and brother. My parents are separated, and my brother Alex, 14, usually lives with my mom during the school year. I wanted to be there for his first day of high school. So I got up early, went to McDonald's to get us some breakfast, and went to my mom's house. My mom's husband answered the door and let me in. I asked my mom where Alex was, and she said he was at Dad's house. I asked why, and she told me he was staying with Dad until he could behave better with his siblings. He has 3 step-brothers around his age. I said my usual greetings and goodbyes and made my way to leave. My mom's husband asked why I was leaving, and I told him I was going to see Alex. Looked upset, but said goodbyes anyways. I spent the rest of the morning with Alex and my dad and then drove him to school. My mom texted me calling me an A because I showed up with McDonald's in a house full of my step-siblings. I don't know them nor consider them family, and don't offer them any or wish them well on their first day. She said what I did was rude because her husband's kids saw me with food and thought it was there for them. She asked me to come back around the time they get home and to take them out so they didn't feel left out. I asked if Alex would be there, and she said no. So I told her I'd be happy to take Alex out with the kids if Alex wanted to go out with them. He of course said no, and now she's accusing me of trying to break up her family. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm not asking if I'm the a-hole for not accepting these kids. Preaching your miracle step family stories to me isn't really going to change that for me. I'm asking if I'm an a-hole in this exact instance, for leaving after I realized he wasn't there. Nothing more. Not the a-hole. You got the McDonald's specifically for your brother on his first day of school. If you showed up with a birthday present, would she expect you to give that to the step-siblings instead of him too? She's being unreasonable. Sounds like there may be a reason why Alex doesn't behave better with his siblings. I have a feeling Mom is putting the step-kids ahead of her own son. Not the a-hole. You're 11 years older than your step-siblings. The family relationship between you will be limited just in that nature because you're all in different life spaces. Your mom's Brady Bunch vision is unrealistic, and her accusations that you're trying to break up her family are off base. And if you're feeling spicy, point out that she is doing her part to break up the family by shipping her son off to live with his dad when things got rough, instead of working on it at home. Dad would do absolutely nothing to help things and would likely pour gasoline on a fire. But hey, sometimes I like to stir up trouble. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for choosing to spend my day with my brother instead of my dad after he tried to bring Step along? My dad got married last year, and for a while, his wife's kids been living here too. I, 16 male, hate it, to be honest, because there is no privacy as we have to share everything, even my room, to our other two sons, Bryce 15 and Ellen 9. And everything is family time. If we're going to get ice cream or see a movie or go to the park, it has to be everyone or no one goes. Like, yeah, I guess I'm used to only doing stuff with my dad and my older brother 24, so maybe that's why it's hard. But still, we don't spend any time together at all. For birthdays, it was always a thing where my dad takes each of us out to do something special, then something later as a family together. Even when my brother was living here with us, he always spent equal time, but now every time with him gotta be shared by everyone else. My birthday was on last Friday. We were supposed to go kayaking, but the thing is, Bryce's birthday is same day as mine. So my dad tells me he's coming too so we could celebrate both our birthdays. But I didn't want that. I told my dad we'd never get a second to do something that only me and him. Yeah, he got other kids now, so it's not going to be the same time we spend together. But we spend no time at all anymore. And I asked him for once if this can be me and him. He told me he's sorry we don't hang out anymore, and that he knows all the time is going to them. But it's Bryce's birthday too, and he wants to come. It got me mad after telling him how I've been feeling he still didn't want to make this only for me and him. So I told him I don't feel like going anymore. My dad told me to come with us, but I didn't want to. When they left, my brother came to pick me up after I told him what happened. He took me to eat and we went to the movies, which was fun. Now my dad thinks I'm the a-hole for choosing to go with my brother instead, when it would have been nice if I was with him and Bryce. Also, that I owe Bryce an apology for skipping out and going with my actual brother instead. I don't know. He seemed like really hurt because he wanted us to do this together, and he won't talk to me right now. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your dad is doing a bad job of blending the families. You made a reasonable request and he wouldn't listen. It's good that you have your brother to help you out. The good news is you only have 2 more years of dealing with your dad's house. Dad, all you're doing is pushing me to the side because your new kid's feelings are more important. I'm sure the new stepmom takes her kids out alone. But can't his dad do the same thing? Not stay home. I doubt that message would get through to dear old dad. He would probably respond with, "What are you talking about? You're the one choosing not to come," or some BS crappy parents say to make themselves seem like the good guys. Not stay home. Your dad really should work harder to understand where you are coming from. If he had just split the day, spent some alone time with you, and then asked you to do a family activity, there wouldn't have been a problem. He needs to own up to his unwillingness to meet you where you are at is causing this. Not stay home. I get that your dad is trying to blend the families and all, but he shouldn't neglect his kids' needs. You didn't choose your stepmom and her kids. Your dad did. On another note, your older brother sounds like an awesome guy for taking you out to celebrate. Hang in there. He just knows it's been hard with my mom sick, so he'd do a lot more to be there. I'm so sorry about your mom, and that just makes your dad favoring your step-siblings even more. You deserve some extra care and attention with all of the changes and stress in your life. You are not the a-hole at all. We're hopeful she's gonna get better, and then maybe I can go back to her when it's safe. Relationship advice. Updated. My husband's sister moved into our home for a temporary amount of time, but now refuses to leave. To give some context beforehand, when my husband and I were building our newly built, the house we currently own and reside in now, we had to stay with my in-laws. They were nice enough to ease that bit of a financial burden on us while our house was being built. During the time there, my husband's sister, 22, was living there with her 2 kids and 1 baby on the way. Well, least to say, I hated living there, especially around her. She's messy, she's dirty, doesn't pick up after herself or her kids, doesn't clean around the home, doesn't contribute to any of the household income. Nothing. She's never had a job and doesn't even know how to drive, so for obvious reasons, she doesn't have an income. Fast forward to my husband and I living in our new 5-bedroom home, his sister ended up moving in with her baby daddy. We thought they were doing fine, until she came crying to us, literally knocking at our doorstep in the middle of the night, saying baby daddy kicked her out because he's tired of her. I felt so bad for her. We let her stay at our place. I asked her what happened, and she said he's done. So, her baby daddy and I aren't that close, but I did ask him if everything was okay, just because she has a tendency to lie sometimes. Baby daddy said he was tired of coming home to a dirty home, to eat fast food all the time, because she doesn't know how to cook, to having their sons constantly sick because all they eat is ramen and fast food. He's tired of it. He told me that he shouldn't have to work 12 hours a day and come home to a mess, nothing cooked, etc. Before she moved in with baby daddy, I encouraged my husband's sister to learn how to cook, that I could teach her, but she declined. It's been 2 months now since we let her stay at our house. Luckily, it's big enough, but she doesn't pull her weight around a home. I'm tired of waking up to screaming kids while I'm currently pregnant myself. I'm tired of seeing the living room a mess while she sleeps in late until 1 p.m. I'm tired of her freeloading off of our stuff. I refuse to cook more than I have to. I let her figure it out herself. My husband buys her food or fast food, but I told him not to do that. I told him it's not our nor his responsibility to have to be providing for the babies either. The babies, I'll give a snack too. I'll make sure they're eating right, but it's still not my responsibility. I told my husband that I was tired of it, and he said there was nothing he can do because that's his sister. I told him that she could go with either one of his parents, since they're divorced. She has plenty of options in family. But she says she doesn't want to be a handful for them because of the kids. Well, frankly, she's a handful for me too. In one instance, there was a handful of dirty dishes that have been stacking up for the day while my husband and I worked. They were all from her and the babies. I was so mad, I washed them all, and she asked if I was nesting. Some of our family members came unexpectedly, and in front of them all, I said, "No, I'm not nesting. I'm cleaning up the dirty dishes you've let yourself accumulate and not care to even wash." She gave me the dirtiest of looks. I've told my husband to talk to her about leaving, and she won't leave. She just won't. I told him it's either me and the family he's decided to create with me or his sister. I told him that until she's not out of this house, I'll be leaving, and I won't be coming back. It's began to take such a toll in my marriage with my husband. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm not sure what to do anymore. How do I make her leave my home? How do I make my husband understand that I don't want her here? She's not my responsibility. Now, for the top advice before reading the first update. I told him it's either me and the family he's decided to create with me or his sister. I told him that until she's not out of this house, I'll be leaving, and I won't be coming back. Good, but you cannot make that an idle threat. Give him a deadline, and if the situation with his sister isn't resolved, leave. If you do nothing, you will never have any voice in your marriage because he will know your threats mean nothing. I agree with this. Also, OP, all this stress isn't good for you or your baby. Does your husband not understand that this can compromise yours and your baby's health? She needs to go if she can't pull her weight because your house is not a hotel and you are not her maid. I'm starting to believe the reason she's like this is because her family lets her do as she wishes without any real consequences. I understand that's your husband's sister, but she's a leech and needs some tough love because she clearly doesn't understand how to adult. Do not let your husband keep enabling this behavior or they both can leave. It's time to give him an ultimatum. You know, it's your home as well. You are within your right to kick her out. You can either leave it in the hands of your husband, who doesn't seem willing to do much about it, or go to your sister-in-law yourself and tell her that she has 30 days to find a new place, while telling your husband that if she isn't gone by then, you'll be the one leaving. If she has the tiniest bit of common sense, she would rather leave than destroy her brother's marriage, I hope. I can't believe she has children while still being such a child herself. This. Talk to a lawyer and give her written notice so the police can help her leave if she refuses. You have done what has been needed. You set a guideline for your husband. Now it's up to him to be a limpy or not. His responsibilities are to you. He married you. He has begun a family with you. His sister is messing with this relationship and he needs to fix this before he tries to help his sister. Now you have to back up what you have said. If you don't, you will lose all credibility when making future threats. Tell him your time limit. Once crossed, be gone. No exceptions. Doesn't matter if you know damn well she's gone in 1 more week. Leave. Congrats on the baby. I do hope your husband prioritizes his family first soon here. I will talk to him about setting limits and trying to have that be the pressure of him needing to get her out of here. I don't want to be the one always forcing the issue down his throat. I hope he'll be conscious enough to have that at the back of his head so he can be proactive about the situation. And now for the first update. First off, thank you all for the advice and suggestions. I sat down with a lawyer and talked about if it's possible for the sister to be considered a tenant, and if so, can we charge rent? Well, luckily in my state, my sister-in-law isn't considered a tenant, so I would not have to charge rent. I also wouldn't have to serve her with any type of tenant eviction as there is no binding contract. Because of this, I have obtained a notarized letter that is allowing her 30 days to pick up her things and leave. I'm being courteous enough in giving her that much time. I've decided to do this before sitting down and speaking to my husband about the issue. After I obtained a notarized letter, I spoke with my husband. I told him how I felt about my home looking like a mess, how I shouldn't be having to take care of his sister and children, being pregnant, and how she should be responsible enough to be able to take care of herself. We both agreed to sit down with her and talk to her. The next day, as we sat down and talked with her after we got home from running some errands, I let him talk. I let him tell her that she was no longer welcome in our home. He told her the reasons: being slob, not picking after her children, not contributing to our household in any way, and making my pregnancy a living hell. I realized how it sort of pained him to have to tell her that, but it's something she needed to know. While having this discussion, she retaliated and said she was being attacked and wouldn't leave because she didn't have elsewhere to go. I told her she did. She could go to my in-laws, other family members, but inside my home, to live in, she was no longer welcome. She made a smart-ass comment of saying, "You're going to toss me out in the middle of the pandemic?" And I said yes. Yes, I am. I told her she has people to go to and live with, that my home wasn't her new nesting ground, and that she should have thought about a comment she just made when her baby daddy kicked her out. I pulled out the eviction notice and told her she has 30 days to get her stuff together, or else I'm going to be calling the cops to have her removed from my home. My husband wasn't too proud of it and was mad that I would actually serve her with a notice. I told him right in front of my sister-in-law that if she doesn't leave in 30 days, that I will, and he will not be allowed to see me or the baby until she's out of the house. I told him I didn't bust my butt working so she can enjoy the luxuries and commodities I've been working so hard to enjoy myself. She won't have her own room at my in-laws? Oh well, go get some job experience and get an apartment. Can't keep baby daddy to stay with you because you can't seem to learn how to cook or clean, or have a basic sense of maintaining a household. Should have thought that before opening your legs and deciding to get pregnant again with a third child. All in all, she's been served with an eviction notice and I have packed my bags in case she doesn't leave. I have taken pictures of valuable items in my home and pictures of her current living situation. Dirty rooms, the mess she leaves laying around for days, the kids not being fed a proper meal. Everything. My lawyer has recommended that if she does not leave and my husband decides to have her stay and he'd be responsible, then I should consider filing for divorce. I set my foot down and listened to you all. Thank you again for your comments and supportive advice. I will keep you updated as the situation progresses. Now for some comments before reading the final update. Hell yes, you're awesome. Stick to your guns. Baby's so lucky to have a mom with such a shiny spine. Good for you for having the gumption, strength, and courage to stand up for yourself. Plus, having the wherewithal to get the eviction notice done and the photos taken. I'll be interested in the update. Very proud of you to stay strong. I hope your husband makes the right decision and stand with you at the 30-day mark. To be honest, she should count her lucky stars for being reasonable enough to give her 30 days notice. If this was me, and she disrespected my house and me like that, she'd be out. Pandemic or no pandemic. Your husband should support your decision, as you're doing it for you both and your child. Thank you for having the courage to stand up and not just sit and take it. I think I speak for us all when we are all rooting for you, and I'll keep lookout for the 30-day update. Stay strong. Now for the final update. I'm sorry to have kept you all waiting for the situation regarding my sister-in-law. Here is the last and final update on the situation. Soon after I gave her the notice, I got the cold shoulder from sister-in-law and my husband for about a week or so. I absolutely hated having to sleep beside my husband, knowing he disliked what I did. Eventually, he came around and realized what this was doing to our family. When in an instance he was working from his office, and the babies were out in the living room, some crying non-stop and she was in her room while talking on the phone. That's when he saw and realized that she was being neglectful. The rift this was causing in our family, and knew something needed to be done about it. During this time, that sister-in-law wasn't talking to me at all. She posted comments about me on social media and tried to, in a way, drag me for the decision I made regarding her living situation. Well, family members who were aware of the situation sent me screenshots, and I kept it for court records if necessary, about what she was saying about me online. Calling me toxic, and that I thought I was better than everyone else because I had everything, and that if it weren't for her brother, my husband, that I wouldn't have what I have now. Well, not that it matters, but I am very well set off with the business I decided to run 2 years ago, so I don't need your brother's money. But nice try. I did gather some information packages about childcare and where she could go and drop off her kids for free in some well-trusted places and so on, so she can get a job and attempt to make some progress. But she threw them out. I tried. At around maybe like 25-ish days was when she moved out, and her baby daddy ended up taking her back. I had the locks to my home changed and was able to restore some peace into my home. My husband's family had mixed feelings about the situation and how it was handled. But if no one else was going to show her some tough love or be responsible for their own blood acting like this, then I don't know who would. It was so easy for some to judge when they weren't even willing to help her out at all. It really sucks that it went this far, and that my husband only gets to see his nephews on occasion. But I guess better me than blood family, right? If it were my Hispanic family members in this position, they would have been booted out of their household without hesitation until they figured it out. And that's the kind of tough love I grew up with. Sounds a bit harsh, but definitely does work. I don't know. I feel somewhat horrible. But also, I would never take advantage of someone else's hospitality the way she did. I'm coming up very close to my due date, and as it gets bigger and a little more unable to do much around the house, I'm just glad it's clean. Thank you all once again for riding in this journey for me, and if by any reasons there are any future updates, I will let you know. Now for some comments. Your husband's a piece of work, and now you know that. I don't think this situation makes the husband a POS. Sometimes we turn a blind eye to the actions of those we love. Also, he may be more used to his sister's behavior since he's likely put up with it his entire life. Sounds like he needed a wake-up call. If your husband's family had such mixed opinions about it, I'm sure the ones who disliked what you did would be more than willing to open up their home to her. I'm sad your husband is such a jerk that he had to witness her behavior himself instead of just believing you. He had to be negatively impacted, babies crying and annoying him when sister was supposed to be watching them, before agreeing she was a problem. Once this settles down, you need to remind your hubby dearest that forsaking all others includes his family. All others, not most others. Spouse comes before everyone, even his own mother. Same for you. If that is not a commitment he can make, you shouldn't stay married to him. You can be friends, but he's not husband material. Now for the last story. My mom and sister want me to break up with my boyfriend because she's now dating his brother. And since they're older and more mature, their relationship is more serious. I'm a junior in college and I've been with my boyfriend since the beginning of sophomore year. It's been a year. We are both 21. I know it's only been a year, but I really love him. And we even have plans of living together soon and have started touring apartments. Our relationship is great. He treats me well and we click so good. My parents loved him and his family and approved of him greatly as well. Our families have met twice. Both times were great. And when I introduced my sister, 31, to his brother, 32, I didn't think it would ever get romantic or even friendly, honestly. But apparently, they exchanged social medias and numbers and started being friends and doing things together. My mom and sister would tell me she's seeing a friend, and I would later find out it was my boyfriend's brother. I thought it was really weird, but oddly, my mother would encourage it and says they're really good together. I asked her what that meant, and she said she's never seen my sister click with a guy so much. At that point, I was already disgusted because, hello, that's my boyfriend's brother. Why does it seem like you want them together? My mom told me that I'm young and to hush basically. A few weeks ago, my sister and him were at the house when I got back from work to tell me that they have been dating for a few months and are now official. They hadn't told my boyfriend, but my sister wanted me to know first because she wanted to be honest with me. We got into a big argument. My boyfriend's brother then left to their family house to tell him, while my sister tried to explain to me that she couldn't help falling in love with him, and that she's older than me and looking for something serious. And at 21, I'm just starting my life and will probably date a lot of guys, and I need to just accept that she's with him and they're interested in something long-term or even marriage. Later, my mom came home and co-signed it, saying that I'm really young, and my boyfriend and I's year is nothing compared to two people in their 30s, both looking for the same thing. My boyfriend's parents don't care that he's still with me, but his brother is telling him he needs to break up with me. We've already spoken for hours about this the past few weeks, and decided not to break up because his brother and my family wants us to. We're still planning on moving together. We were together first, so why should I end things because my sister and his brother are now serious? My family's all bullying me and ganging up on me every day, saying I'm selfish and that in a few years' time, I'll look back after dating different guys and I'll see how big of an a-hole I am. My sister is saying that she and his brother want to start a family and life together. And at 21, I'm not interested in having a serious family and relationship. And I'm rubbing her off that chance because she doesn't have forever. And she found the one. And I'm too young to know what I truly want. But am I? Now for the top advice. I'm super confused as to why you can't both date who you want. They seem pretty unrelated to me. In fact, you breaking up with your guy could cause issues between the families, right? My mom thinks it's shameful. I honestly don't care what people think because I was with my boyfriend first. My sister and mom think that me dating into her future husband's families is nasty. And is basically my brother-in-law now. And that we were casual friends before we started dating, so we should just go back to being casual friends. Tell them to screw off. Yes, was just going to say this. They don't know what the future holds. He could well be her forever person, and even if not, you got together first. They're just starting drama. It's not incest or anything weird. It happens all the time. I've been happily married for 10 years. My older brother is married to my wife's older sister. It's kinda nice having someone I know there when I go to see my in-laws. Edit. If you want to break up with someone, break up with the people being a-holes about the situation. You don't need them in your life. My grandma and her sister married my grandpa and his brother. It's not uncommon or incestuous at all. My dad calls his cousins his double cousins, and if he needs a kidney or something, he has his brother and 3 cousins who could all be a genetic match. Sounds like a win to me. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to raise my brother-in-law's kids? I, 28 female, have been married for 4 years. My husband, 29, has a brother who is 2 years older than him. Let's call him Ben. Ben has 2 kids, 6-year-old and 9 months old, with a woman called Amy. When Ben was still with Amy, he was an a-hole towards her. He promised to marry her, but never did. Instead, he cheated on her multiple times. So, about 2 years ago, Ben was caught cheating again, and this was Amy's last straw, and they broke up. I should add, Ben knew Amy was a few weeks pregnant at this point. Amy, who had been living with her mother, decided to move closer to the city to look for work. Soon enough, she found herself a boyfriend and moved in with him. This caused Ben to become enraged. He threw another online tantrum, saying he didn't want his kids being raised by a stranger, and even threatened to stop supporting the kids financially if they continue living with the boyfriend. Amy resorted to sending her kids back to live with her mother. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, Amy's mom had a stroke and is now incapable of caring for herself, much less the kids. So now, I found out that Ben asked my husband if we can raise his 2 kids for him. He says he doesn't have time to do it because he has to work as a teacher and come home to mark schoolwork. He says since I work remotely, I'm the only one capable of taking care of the kids. I refused, and I'll give my reasons. 1. I already have 2 kids to take care of, who are under the age of 3. 2. I don't want to have to spend any more time with Ben than I already do. He's a misogynist, stupid brat. The fact that he thought it would be okay to speak to my husband only about us raising his kids proves my point. 3. We have very different life views and parenting strategies, and raising his kids would interfere with my autonomy in raising mine. For example, I bought my son a play stove, and Ben made a lot of unnecessary comments about the toy being for girls in front of my son. Thankfully, my husband told him to back off, but this is just one example of why I think he's a bad influence for a child. 4. I think this whole situation is because of Ben's incapability to grow up. I think he could care for the kids himself, but he wants to live the bachelor life and continue drinking with his friends instead of raising his own kids. This is why my husband disagrees. I told him I might have been willing to raise the kids if Ben and Amy were dead, or if they were incapable of caring for the kids because of something they can't control. But I'm not willing to raise them just so the parents can do other things. This made my husband say that I'm punishing the kids because of the parents' mistakes. He says he feels that both Ben and Amy are not good enough parents because Ben drinks too much and Amy introduced the kids to a boyfriend she had only known for a short time. He says if you see kids suffering, you should be willing to step in. Even if the parents are at fault, the kids are innocent. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, why can't their mother take them again? Because he threatened to stop financially supporting them? So she sent them away. What? She'd rather live with her boyfriend than her kids? She can't find her job in her hometown and she says she can't afford to rent on her own where she works. Not the a-hole. That's a huge life shift for your entire household, including your children. Amy should be looking into a legal custody arrangement so she can get child support and have her kids back. Both parents are the a-holes here and have chosen their preferred lifestyle over the living human beings they created. Not the a-hole. Tell your husband he's delusional if he thinks you will step into this fire pit of being a free nanny and babysitter for his brother. You'd have 4 children under the age of 6 under your 24/7 care, with their father's looming presence judging you from the background. The only way I think this would be in any way possible would be if Ben and Amy signed away their parental rights and you'd have no contact with them. Because otherwise, Ben would be lording over you about the kids nonstop. You know, like he'd be calling the shots while you do all the work. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for losing it when my husband called CPS on my sister? My female 33, sister, female 28, is a single mother with 2 kids aged 7 and 4. Ever since her ex left, I did everything I could to help out with the kids, like watching them a few times a week while she works, and coming over to her house to help her to get things done, like fixing stuff and cleaning. My husband voluntarily took part as well, and he'd go over to help with a few things. He said he wanted to and was happy to help. No one made him go or even ask him to do any of the things he did. Lately, he started complaining whenever my sister brings the kids so I could watch them for a few hours. He'd say that it started affecting our lives by not going out and meeting with family and friends and having to watch the kids instead. Thing is, he was free to go hang out with his friends. I was fine and willing to help with the kids since I work from home and seeing how hard she works. He brought it up again and said that my sister clearly can't handle being a single mother and needed to stop counting on us for help. I thought he was being mean by making those comments. I told him he doesn't have to help if he felt uncomfortable and he stopped talking about it. Last week, he threw a fit when my sister brought the kids so I could watch them for a few hours, and he said that I was being a doormat for my sister and that we weren't obligated to do the hard work for raising her kids for her. He left the house, then came home in the evening. The next day, I got a call from my sister, and she was crying, saying someone called CPS on her and had an agent come over to her house for a surprise visit. First, she said it might have been her in-laws, but later my husband told me he anonymously called CPS on her because he thought that this would be a wake-up call for her to stop counting on us for help and step up as a mother. I was absolutely livid. I lost it and yelled at him. He argued that my sister shouldn't be freaking out as long as she had nothing to worry about. But this was huge. The amount of stress she and the kids must have felt, I can't imagine. I have a bad history with CPS when I was young. He did something awful just because he thought she wasn't good enough and needed some type of warning to get her life together. I yelled at him because no matter how he thought it wasn't a big deal, calling CPS is huge and just wrong. I was so angry with him, I couldn't even talk to my sister after what he did. I talked to her and she was feeling upset and frustrated and shaken up. She doesn't know my husband was the one who made a call, and I feel horrible thinking about it. I'm so mad at him despite him apologizing for what he did. Just to clarify, I watch the kids 3 times a week, till noon and sometimes from noon till the evening. No more than 6 hours. I'd visit my husband's family during the weekend. That's when I'd usually go out. It's not like I'm neglecting him or anything, so I don't know why he behaves like this. I had no idea. It never occurred to me that he'd do something like this. There's no excuse for this. It's just so awful and unacceptable. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. CPS is not there to waste resources that could have been used on families that actually need the help because he is immature. Your husband needs to get his head out from his behind. Can OP report her husband to CPS for making false/malicious reports? Yes, as he obviously needs some kind of warning to not be a douche. Maybe a visit from the police for filing a false charge would make him step up and be a responsible man by minding his own business. Not the a-hole. It is actually insane that he called CPS because your sister gets you to babysit sometimes. What a horrible experience for your sister, and what a waste of CPS limited resources. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I miss it being just me and my dad? My mom died when I, 16 female, was 6. My dad remarried when I was 11. He fell in love hard and fast with his wife and they got married 6 months later. She had 3 kids ages 6, 7, and 9 at the time. It was a lot for me. Everything is so much more. Things are louder and busier and there are so many more people, and I was never excited like they were. But I never wanted to say anything, so I kept my mouth shut and let things happen for my dad, who was so happy. On the inside, I was hurt though. I was hurt that my dad seemed to be so eager to leave everything behind when he got remarried. We no longer did pizza after school on Friday. We no longer watched something together on Sundays before bed. Everything had to include everyone, and when I would ask to do something just with my dad, he would say no and looked confused. One time, my dad asked why I was so eager to do stuff with him, but never cared about family time, and I said because I missed him. He said I never lost him. Then, back in October last year, they put us all into family therapy, because for one of my classes, we had to design something in computer class. I was given a family tree, did the family tree of my dad, mom, and me, and then grandparents, etc. My teacher showed my dad at the PD conference because of how good it was, and he and his wife freaked out about the steps not being included, and so family therapy happened. First therapist was a dud. Second one didn't make anyone feel comfortable, and then when we were supposed to start with a current therapist, COVID hit, and we couldn't do them from home, so we started in July or August. Can't remember when exactly now. Then she was good, and so I opened up. But I don't think they handled it well. 4 sessions in, I was asked why I was distant. I admitted I found it hard. I felt like everyone else was so happy, and I didn't want to rock the boat. But it was too much for me, and I missed when it was just me and my dad, because that's when it was most comfortable for me. She asked what I missed about it. I said it was the time I got with my dad, the fact it always felt like home, and it has felt less like home since more people joined the family. And I have felt bad about it. But it was a lot going from 3 to 2 for so many years, and then we went up to 6 overnight, and it was all so fast. They were so eager and started calling me their sister and daughter right away, but I didn't feel that way, and then my dad stopped doing our stuff together, and I felt like I lost him. My dad said he was hurt I wasn't happier for him, and that I didn't give it more of a chance before rejecting them. My stepmom was hurt that after 5 years, I hadn't warmed up to her and her kids enough to feel like they were part of my home. The therapist said how I felt was valid, and asked why they felt like what I said was bad. And we have been going around in circles since. Am I the a-hole? I feel like I should have stayed quiet because now they're just mad at me. Now for the top comments. Oh, honey. You know you were not the a-hole, but big hugs here. Exactly. I personally think it's really important that AITA is a safe space for children and young adults to come and ask things that might be obvious when you are older. It is very clear that there are a lot of minors here who don't have a very good home life, and if we can give them just a shred of validation, then that is good. I am very proud of OP for being so good at voicing her feelings without projecting it all into dislike or hate towards her dad or steps. It is not okay for a father to disregard her child like this. Even if he is a good father to all his children, then he has to recognize that different children have different needs. Her step-siblings were already 3, so 4 doesn't seem so much different, but OP never had siblings before. Siblings can be hard work, exactly because of this. It takes a whole bunch of compromise that you learn gradually. It isn't just something you transition effortlessly into. I just wanted to add that if your dad and stepmother are behaving differently towards you after your therapy sessions, this should be brought to the therapist's attention immediately. I'm a shrink. Fallout from joint sessions can and does happen. This seriously destroys safety and undermines the treatment. It's fine for them to be angry. It's not okay for them to act on it. Doing so is a form of punishment applied to suppress your healthy expressions of your feelings. And I know this sounds backwards and strange, but sometimes, and I say sometimes, parents who start crying in response to their kid being honest about their experiences also are acting on anger. And 10 times out of 10 kids stop talking. The tears are a way of shutting their kids up. I think it would be helpful if you also asked a family therapist about a referral for you to individual therapy. Might help to save your own space to get support. Not the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for leaving the call when my brother announced that his girlfriend is pregnant? My brother and I do not get on. When we were younger, he'd go out of his way to make my life a living hell. To my parents' credit, they did tell him off for it when they caught him, but they both worked long hours and didn't have energy to deal with our arguments. This continued into adulthood. He was salty that he failed his college course the first time around. There was a bad argument in our family a while ago, and I kid you not, it all started because I refused to decorate my brother's living room. I won't go into too much detail, but he wanted a pretty hefty discount. I said no, and he threw a tantrum. You really need to meet my brother to understand just how bad he is. But hopefully this post will do it some justice. Instead of being a grown-up and talking to me, he decided to hook up with my toxic ex-girlfriend and the mother of my child. Due to the rules here, I can't go into a lot of detail about what she was like, but she was not a nice person. She never really bonded with our son when he was born, and I was left to do everything by myself. She eventually walked out on us and refused to have any contact with our son. She'll post on Facebook now and then about her beautiful baby boy to get sympathy votes, but that's about it. I have been a single dad for almost 3 years now, and I absolutely adore my son. But it hurts to think that one day he might question why his mom didn't want anything to do with him. How am I supposed to explain that to him? Anyway, it bothered me when my brother told me they'd hooked up together. It hurt even more when he started dating her. It had taken me so long to get over what she did to me and my child, and now my own brother was bringing her back into my life? Yesterday, we had a family video call. Parents are high risk, and we're not taking any chances. When my brother decided to announce that he and my ex were expecting, I just froze. I didn't know what to do or think. I could feel myself starting to cry a little bit, and it got a bit harder to breathe. Eventually, I decided to just congratulate them, and then made up some lie about needing to put my son down for a nap and left. I received a bunch of messages from my brother and his girlfriend, telling me that I stole their thunder. After I left, my parents and some other family members started worrying if I was okay, and not really focusing on their news. My uncle told me that I should have just been a man, and stuck it out instead of making excuses to get out of it. After all, it was expected that our kids would be raised around each other. I feel like maybe I shouldn't have left the call, but at the same time, it would have been worse if I'd stayed and had a full-blown panic attack in front of everyone. Some of the family members are split, and have argued that I won't be able to avoid my brother and his family forever, but others believe I was in the right to leave the situation. I don't know what to think. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I think you handled the situation as well as you can. Also, really? Your ex is going to go and date your brother and have a child with him, yet not take responsibility for the child with you? That's really messed up. Thank you. And yes, she's not a very nice person. I honestly doubt that she ever really thinks about our little boy. She's missing out though. He's an amazing boy. Not the a-hole. Your kid is going to grow up with half-siblings but think they're cousins. His aunt will actually be his mom who wants nothing to do with him. And they're trying to make you think you're the a-hole here? Nope. No way. No how. Nil. None. No. You are totally in the right here, and you need to protect your kid from that toxic mess of a family. Honestly, the way you worded it made me realize even more just how messed up the situation is. My son is going to think his mom is his aunt. This is a mess. Thank you though. I feel harsh saying it, but it might be healthier for your son to not have any contact with his egg donor, uncle, or half-sibling/cousin. Once he's old enough to understand how messed up the situation is, which will happen, he's going to have a lot of emotions about it. If he has an entire childhood of spending time with his cousin and aunt, only to learn that she was the mother who abandoned him, but she somehow loves her other child enough to be a mom to them, that's going to mess him up for years. It's going to hurt no matter what, but you have the chance to shield him from an entire childhood of very painful lies. You're definitely not the a-hole, and anyone who thinks you should be okay with this kind of betrayal against your son is a person you don't need to waste any consideration on. Also, reiterating what many have said before, your son is entitled to child support. It's your job to make sure he gets it. Edit. I just wanted to say thank you first of all for all the support. I fell asleep last night and woke up to so many kind and supportive comments. A lot of people have been asking how my parents feel about this. They aren't happy, but they don't have the energy to deal with all the hassle my brother would cause. They actually cut him off for a while when he started dating my ex, but he phoned them constantly and again can't go into much detail, but he said he'd do something not so good. They keep him at arm's length, but I have told them not to cut contact because of me. If they want to cut contact on their own accord, then that's fine, but I do not want to be the reason that they have to deal with his tantrums. The rest of the family, for the most part, weren't happy about it, but accepted it, or pretended to, when they started getting a bit more serious. My uncle, who told me to be a man, thought it was funny. That's just the kind of person he is. I think as hard as it might be, I am going to cut off contact with my brother and ex. As a lot of people pointed out, not for my sake, but for the sake of my son. I don't want to put him through all that. Sorry I can't reply to all your comments, but I've been trying to read them all. Thanks again, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for no longer bringing dinner for my wife after she claimed I never cook? I work at a nice restaurant as a cook, and every day when I get off from work, I always cook dinner for my wife and our 2 kids, 8 male and 6 female, at the restaurant before coming home. The only time I don't cook for them are on weekends when I'm off, and that's when my wife does the cooking. We usually trade off who makes breakfast and lunch for the kids every other day, but for the weekdays, I'm always the one bringing home dinner. Weekends, we sometimes get together with friends and they come over to the house. My wife usually cooks and I help set the table/clean afterwards. One of her friends, Stacy, asked how come I never do any of the cooking. And is it always on my wife all the time making meals for the kids, especially when I'm a cook myself? Instead of correcting her, she sort of laughed and went along with it, making jokes about, you know how it is. And Stacy laughed because her ex-husband was the same way, and then sort of ripped on me in a joking way how I better buck up before I become an ex too. My wife just said, well, let's see if he actually listens and starts cooking for once. Joking about all the time I spend in the kitchen at work but won't do the same at home. It really pissed me off. I'm not the husband that just doesn't do anything after I'm home from work. I cook food for her and the kids at work, and on top of that I make separate dishes for each of them, which ones and what the kids want. All that after standing on my feet all day. We talked about it once they left because I don't appreciate being told I'm not doing something she knows for a fact I do. She didn't want to apologize for it because it was all just to be a funny joke. Even after telling her about how it hurt my feelings being put down like that. My wife said she felt like she has to go along with the joke so there wouldn't be any awkward vibes, whatever that means. But I said fine. If she can't apologize for something that was meant just so she could laugh along with her friends, then I won't keep doing something she already claims I don't do. For the past week, I've only bought home dinner for our kids, and she's had to make her own food. She's mad that I'm refusing to feed her over what happened instead of letting it go. But I can't help but feel mad about being made fun of like that, when I'm busting my butt to provide for my family and still making sure they have food on the table every evening. She just thinks I'm an a-hole for how I'm reacting when she's already tired at the end of the day but still have to make food for herself. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your wife missed a great opportunity to boast on you, all for acceptance by others who have nothing invested in your relationship. Not even to boast, it would have felt nice though, but at least say, hey, you're wrong, not just go along with it. As a stay-at-home mom who has a significant other who actually does things for himself and around the house, I've basically had this conversation before. All she had to say is, actually, I don't have that problem. He's a responsible adult and pulls his share. I don't get why she had to lie to keep it from being awkward. I'm sure it was awkward already. Not stay home. Your spouse is supposed to be your partner in everything in life. The person who always has your back like you always have theirs. She threw you directly under the bus for the sake of not creating waves with her friend. Then when you told her you didn't find her comments at all funny, and quite hurtful that she let someone else believe you're a deadbeat, she blew you off. So she can make her own dinner until she sincerely apologizes and acknowledges that your contribution to the family of cooking dinner during the week is important. Not stay home. My wife said she felt like she has to go along with the joke so there wouldn't be any awkward vibes, whatever that means. Your wife would rather hurt your feelings than cause awkward vibes with her friends? Ouch. Ouch. Your response could be construed as petty potentially, but she made her own bed, and now she can lie on it. Not today, OP. Yep, she thought it's better to insult you, so she went along with the joke. Nice to know where her priorities are. Not today, home. It's been a week, and she still refuses to apologize? Still cooking for the kids was a good idea. No. Yeah, I won't let my kids starve. They don't have anything to do with this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to teach my best friend's girlfriend to cook and banning her from our kitchen? I, 26 male, live with my best friend Brian, 26 male, in a rented house. Sometime in September, Brian started dating Cindy, female 24. Brian can't cook. At all. He can make scrambled eggs, instant ramen, frozen pizza, and that's about it. He doesn't even know how to cook rice. I, on the other hand, am a great cook, and I occasionally, 3 to 5 times a month, cook for him as well. Cindy has been staying over more and more often, and a few weeks ago she was sleeping over on the same day I cooked for Brian. She was apparently really shocked I cooked it, because it tastes like it's from a pricey restaurant. Brian made a mistake of mentioning that I offered to teach him to cook. Cindy decided that this offer automatically extends to her as well. So she came to me and told me I could teach her. She didn't ask. She just told me. I told her I wouldn't. We went back and forth, and she thinks I have to because I promised Brian I'd teach him. But he doesn't want to. Cindy also doesn't know how to cook anything. She thinks she's entitled to cooking lessons because she is dating my friend. She kept pestering me about this for almost 3 freaking weeks. It only stopped when I asked Brian to talk to her. Now, last week I got home and could immediately smell burnt food. I walked into the kitchen and there she was. She tried to make crepes, burned them to a crisp, and was scraping them with metal spatula on a nonstick pancake pan. I slightly lost it. It immediately raised my voice to ask her what the heck she was doing. She gave me an attitude about how, since I'm an a-hole, she's learning to cook by herself. I told her she can do that at her home but not in our kitchen. She smugly told me it's not my decision to make, because it's Brian's place as well. I told her it is my decision, because everything in the kitchen is mine. When we moved in, the kitchen was empty apart from a single banged-up pan, 1 pot, and 3 dull knives with crappy plastic handles. The kitchen is now chef-worthy. I dropped hundreds on appliances. Cookware, nice dinnerware, etc. Brian is of course allowed to use everything in the kitchen. I told Cindy that she is not allowed to cook anything in our kitchen. Brian came into the kitchen at this point and diffused the argument. That was last week. Things between Brian and me are very awkward. Cindy has not been over since. One of my friends absolutely went off on me, calling me sexist and classist because not everyone has the same opportunities. Side note, I grew up poor, and I learned to cook on my own. I learned how to make great tasting meals out of ramen, hot dogs, rice, whatever was on the clearance, etc. I don't think I am the a-hole for refusing to teach, but I'm wondering if banning her from the kitchen was a step too far. It's just that I really don't like her. I honestly don't trust her not to damage something on purpose. Edit. The pan is fine. The coal that was supposed to become crepes protected the actual pan. Not a-hole. You said no, and she should have stopped asking after that. Cindy sounds like an entitled a-hole. The metal spatula on a nonstick pan is utterly criminal. She's better off drinking the batter mix if she wants pancakes. Not a-hole. She acted entitled and ruined items that belong to you because she wouldn't take no for an answer. And I honestly do not understand how telling someone you don't want to teach them to cook and not use your cookware is either sexist or classist. My friend grew up middle class and seems to think poor people cannot cook because they can't afford it. True for families permanently living in, let's say, motels, where they don't have access to a kitchen. But personally, I think poor people are more likely to know how to cook. As a kid, we could never afford takeout and to go out to eat, so we cooked whatever we had. Not stay home. You do not mess with someone's cooking stuff. Just got a new set of yakushi knives that I'm obsessed with. If someone was using them without my permission and using them incorrectly, I would flip my lid. Especially if they were acting as entitled as a girlfriend. Absolutely not an a-hole. However, if you feel like sharing some sweet appliances you have that I need in my kitchen, I'm all ears. Lol. If I had yakushi knives in my kitchen, I would never get anything done because I would be too busy worshipping them. Unfortunately, money is tight due to COVID, so that will remain a dream for me for now. Not gonna say the specific model as I am not sure they are making them anymore and I bought it in Europe a few years ago. But I think everyone should have a hand blender with accessories. Mine came not only with different heads, but also with 2 containers, where you plug the blender on top and you can change the blades and they will either blend, chop, grate, slice, or mix bread dough. I much prefer it over a traditional food processor or a blender. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for hiding embarrassing notes in my house as a joke, because I know my fiancé's mom snoops? I bought a house 7 years ago and I met my fiancé Al 4 years ago. This year he moved in. We're talking about making it a home for both of us, but as of now he hasn't moved much stuff in. Right now 95% of the stuff and furniture in the house is mine. When his mom comes over, she's kind of a snoop. He was used to that, but when she comes to our house, it's so uncomfortable because she's just going through my things. When I'm bothered, she's like, I was just helping with chores, etc. He says I should just let her because she has a lot of nervous energy. One thing she snooped on was actually embarrassing. In my home office, I had a little affirmation post-it note on my monitor saying, I'm smart, I am skilled, I am deserving of great things. It was a silly thing my therapist recommended to get me in a confident mindset before an interview. Anyway, she made a comment too about my ego. But as a joke, I decided to do it again. I had my best friend over and we got wine drunk and wrote a bunch of affirmations to hide. Some were, medicine cabinet, my teeth will regrow, I am shark-like and powerful. Kitchen drawers, I know when to spoon, but I also know when to fork. I am sexy and self-assured. Work desk, I will not just sleep my way to the top of the company, I will sleep my way to the top of the world. Walk-in closet, I am beautiful with clothes and without, especially without. My boobs are legendary. There were a bunch more and my friend and I had a hilarious time writing them. Next time my mother-in-law came over, she saw a few. And she didn't acknowledge them to me even though she definitely started acting a little weird about me. I went to run some errands and when I was out, she confronted Al about the notes and was trying to tell him that I seemed unstable, egotistical, and moving in was a bad idea. She showed him the notes and he didn't really know what to make of it. So he asked me and I said that they were just some silly private notes to boost my self-confidence and make myself laugh. How had she gotten them? Had she been going through my things? He said she was just tidying and saw them, and they were really weird. I was like, have you met me? You should know how weird I am. Anyway, if you don't want your mom seeing my weird crap, you've got to stop letting her go through my things. He asked if I left them on purpose to annoy her, and I admitted that was kinda the joke. But I also have other weird or private stuff. So what I said about her needing to stop snooping if she didn't want to find weird crap was still for real. He said I was making stuff hard for him. His mom was really protective and adjusting to him moving in with a girlfriend for the first time, and I was agitating her on purpose and making her think I wouldn't be a good partner when he wanted her to have the opposite impression of me. Am I the a-hole for the note prank? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She's snooping through your home. I'd have gone further and left little notes like, nobody likes a snoop, and you aren't welcome to go through my things. But yours were pretty damn funny. It's a red flag if your fiancé stands up for her invading your privacy like this. Haha, I was thinking a set of butt plugs increasing in size to the absurd would be pretty funny. But pointed notes could be too. Yeah, I feel so frustrated because he was okay with her doing it in his apartment. Because she actually would help with laundry and dishes and he appreciated that. But in my house, it's different. Because it's not his stuff there. It's not even our stuff. It's 95% my stuff because I've lived there for 7 years and furnished it and bought everything. And he moved in after selling his furniture and only bringing a closet full of things and some gadgets. So when she's going through the house, it's not his stuff or even shared stuff. She's just going through my things. And I'm not really cool with that because I don't want my guests helping with my laundry or looking for my dirty mugs. I think on the not funny side of things, I might just sit her down and say I've lived alone for 6 years. I live in a way that makes my home feel like a home. And part of that is not keeping anything but the living room and guest bathroom presentable for guests. So I'm uncomfortable with her as my guest going into the other rooms without asking or looking at my stuff. Not stay home. Don't ask Al's mom to stop going through your things. Tell her she is not allowed to go through your things. Ever. If that doesn't sit well, maybe she won't come over anymore. Either way, you win. Walk-in closet. I'm beautiful with clothes and without. Especially without. My boobs are legendary. The kind of energy I needed today. Not stay home. Also, it's really creepy Al's mom is looking through all your stuff. And then Al saying it's just what she does. Like, what is she looking for? Why does it not bother him that his mother is finding stuff in his fiancé's house? And then telling him about it all shocked and disturbed as if what she's doing is any less shocking and disturbing. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying if we had our second child first, we probably wouldn't have had another? My wife and I have 2 kids. Oldest Penelope is almost 4, youngest Brianna will be 3 in June. Penelope was really a dream baby. I got laid off around the time she was born, so I ended up a stay-at-home dad. She would sleep a lot, was generally happy, and from a young age, pretty independent. If I needed to do chores, I could leave her in her pack and play, or on an activity mat with some toys and she'd be entertained. She was sleeping through the night by 3 months. I knew this was a rare experience, but it did make us want to try again fairly quickly. Even now at 4, she's had her moments and we expect tantrums, but overall she's a well-behaved child. Brianna has challenged us from day 1. And none of it has been her fault, of course. She was colicky and those first few months were hell. She also ended up with a nipple aversion, and it took months and several doctors to find a bottle that worked for her. She needed to be held constantly. We had taken several trips with Penelope and she did great, while Brianna could not cope long in a car. As a toddler, she has been equally as challenging. Massive tantrums, aggression, etc. Way more than an average toddler. We're working on having her evaluated, but due to the pandemic, everything is being pushed back. I ended up going back to work last year and we hired a nanny. We've had to quit due to our youngest being too much to handle. We ended up putting Penelope in preschool so we could get a new nanny that specialized in special needs children for Brianna, and so far she's helped a ton. But we still struggle day to day. It's tested our marriage, and we're both in therapy separately and as a couple. In couples therapy, I admitted that I didn't want more kids, and my wife agreed. I then said, if we had Brianna first, I feel like we never would have had Penelope. My wife got mad, and said that was an awful thing to say. I asked her why. We struggled being all Brianna needs as it is. She is probably a kid who would do better as an only child. And given how much attention Brianna needs, Penelope deserves a home where life isn't so chaotic. I understand we can't go back, but I'm just sharing my thoughts. The therapist said it's healthy to share these things. My wife is still mad and says it was a nasty thing to say. I'd never say it to either child, so is there any harm? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You'd be an a-hole if you said this to Brianna, but you said it in the presence of your wife and therapist. You should be able to be honest with your feelings in such company. Honestly, the wife is probably thinking the exact same thing, and is feeling guilty as hell about it and is lashing out at him for giving voice to her shame. Not stay home. It was therapy where you're allowed to say stuff like that. Also, don't feel bad. Penelope was a trick baby. Lots of people get them. They trick you into having another one. Brianna will be fine in the long run, and so will you and your family. Just keep on walking. Exactly what happened to my parents. My sister was a dream, brother was good as long as he was fed, then they had me. I've been told if I were first, I'd be an only child. Not stay home. Honestly, it's important to say that stuff out loud in therapy. Then you can both acknowledge that Brianna needs a lot of attention, and then you can do a better job at recognizing when you two are giving all attention to Brianna and not enough to Penelope. It's constructive to have those conversations, even if they're difficult, in my opinion. Exactly. He wasn't saying he didn't love Brianna. My second child is autistic. My elder child is easy to care for and placid. If we'd had our autistic child first, I don't think we'd have had a second. It doesn't mean I don't love both of them immensely and equally. It just means that I recognize that my second child's high level of needs would have meant having another child was not feasible. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not financially helping family and friends despite being able to? My son, Nick, was born with a congenital heart defect 17 years ago. It required a $60,000 surgery in Israel if he was to survive past 12 months. I've spent the first 3 months of his life running around, begging people and searching for money. My parents gave us $100. They had well-paying jobs and guaranteed state pensions. When I asked my brother for help, he mumbled something about needing to save for his daughter's college. She never went, by the way. Anyone who met her could have told him that much. They did take regular vacations overseas, though. My department of 40 at work donated $30 and a card. At one point, I was seriously searching for ways to sell my kidney and liver. My in-laws sold their apartment for $35,000. Best friend gave me another $7,000, which was all he had. Accepting his help was one of the few times I cried in my adult life. I sold my car and every piece of furniture and electronics that wasn't bolted to the walls. My in-laws moved in, and we've spent the next 5 years living together. 5 people, crammed into a 2-bedroom. Surgery was a success. As fate has it, I started a hustle and it took off. After years of hard work, I moved our headquarters to a Central European country to be closer to our EU clients. Even discounting for about 2/3 of my wealth that is tied up in the business, I am a multi-millionaire. My in-laws now have a 4-bedroom house. We pay for them to go on vacations 3 to 4 times a year, or did, before 2020. My son is a hard worker who makes me a very proud father. I can't say that I hate those who didn't help back in the day. Hate is a strong word. Rather, I feel like I've learned my lesson and don't expect anything from them. I don't invite my parents for visits. They're welcome to pay for their flights and a hotel room, but I won't cover their expenses like I do with the in-laws. My brother asked for a loan to start his business 5 years ago. I said the time wasn't right. 2 months ago, his daughter got into a car accident, drunk driving. Nothing seemingly life-threatening, but a lot of nasty scarring on her legs that require costly cosmetic surgery. I suggested he looks into downsizing, as I am focused on helping my kids get good education. Old co-workers who wanted to join my business once it took off were told to apply through the regular process. Except for my best friend. He's been my partner from the start, and I sleep better at night knowing we've got each other's backs. It comes without saying there have been lots of very unhappy people in my life. In our culture, you're expected to support your community and family, do favors. Nepotism is very much an ingrained thing. You're supposed to bring over your family. If you're lucky enough to root yourself in the Western world, help friends immigrate. My parents told me to my face they are ashamed of me, how the Western culture has changed me. I've been called many things, way worse than an a-hole and heartless. After hearing my story, tell me Reddit, am I though? Edit. To those wondering why my parents had a pretty lukewarm response, if you can even call it that, the surgery had a 40% success rate. They thought we should let nature run its course, and instead, try for a new baby. It may sound horrendous to Westerners, but it's not that cold of a statement to someone in our home country, but obviously wife and I didn't take it well. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your in-laws sold their $35,000 house to help you. Your best friend gave you all he had to help your son. Nobody else helped you, or even pretended to help you and your son. Your in-laws deserve everything you're giving to them because they were one of the only people there for you at your absolute lowest. You were going to sell your kidney for your son because nobody else helped you. Having your old co-workers who did not help you beg to get into your business don't deserve it. And not only that, but it is 100% fair that they are to apply just as anyone else. Your parents are just angry at you for not sharing your success. If you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. That goes for you and your son in relation to rest of family. Not the a-hole, but your parents and old co-workers certainly are. Huh, this is probably the first time the "can't handle me at my worst" phrase made any sense to me. Thanks for putting a smile on my face. Not the a-hole. They're not obligated to help you and you're not obligated to help them. Don't help them. But your parents' comment about let nature run its course and instead try for a new baby, like, what the F do they smoke? Who tells that to anyone? They essentially told you to let your son die and provide them with another grandchild. You've got no contact then and there. Nobody needs such people in their lives. It's very hard to explain this, but it's truly not as horrific as it sounds for people raised and living in that culture. I don't know how to get it across in a just manner. The only very weird analogy that comes to mind is how bone marrow jello is a delicacy in some countries that is served during holidays. And in other cultures, people would have a complete WTF moment if they are told this is food. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for respecting my late brother, 45 male, wishes and not telling his ex-wife, 46 female, about his diagnosis and not informing anyone about him passing away? My parents died when I, 38 female, was 11. I didn't have an extended family in the US, so my brother, 45 male, raised me after that. He was basically my dad, and a good one. When I was 15, he met Olivia, 46 female. They dated for 2 years before getting married. They had 2 daughters together, Sarah, 12 female, and Amelia, 14 female. They were very happy together. My brother was a family man, so he was living his dream. 5 years ago, my nieces went camping with their uncle, Olivia's brother. When they were driving back home, they were hit by a drunk driver. Amelia and Olivia's brother died at the scene. Sarah arrived at the hospital alive, but she didn't survive the surgery. It almost broke my brother. He managed to suffer in silence to help Olivia. But they managed to survive, and I thought they were strong. From the outside, it seemed like they really loved each other. Last year, after staying with my brother for 23 years, Olivia came out as a lesbian, and she asked my brother for divorce. It was a shock to everyone. That really messed my brother's head. During the divorce proceedings, my brother started feeling sick. He eventually was diagnosed with stage 2 pancreatic cancer. After the diagnosis, my brother dove down into a deep depression. He moved in with me, Houston to Hartford. He isolated himself from everyone. The divorce was handled only through his lawyer, and he cut contact with Olivia. Asked me to not tell anyone about his diagnosis, then deactivate his social media. He was severely depressed. He went through 2 rounds of chemo and 1 major surgery. But unfortunately, it didn't work, and he was terminal. My brother's depression went as deep as it could. He barely spoke to anyone at that point. When he had the energy, he liked playing with my kids. Otherwise, he just spent his time looking at old photos and videos. Before he died, he told me that he didn't want a funeral, that he wanted to be cremated, that I didn't inform anyone about his death, and that I spread his ashes in a certain place. It is a lake in Vermont where he used to take the girls to hike. He just wanted to be forgotten, his words. My brother died in September. I did everything he asked me, and in October, I went there to spread his ashes. Last Thursday, Olivia showed at my place. She said that she couldn't talk to him, and she wanted to spend Christmas with him. I invited her in and told her what happened. She didn't take the news very well. At first, she accused me of lying. Then she told me that I stole him from her, that she had a right to know before the divorce, that I shouldn't have spread his ashes, that he shouldn't have to die alone. I was there with him, that she didn't know why he did that to her, that she shouldn't be punished. She started to panic. I tried to calm her down, but she got a bit aggressive, and my kids got scared, so I asked her to leave. She told people about his death, and now I'm being harassed on social media by my brother's friends, her family, and people I don't even know. Made me wonder, am I the a-hole here, Reddit? Now for the top judgment of this post. Not the a-hole. You were respecting your brother's wishes. However, since it is out there now, run an obituary for him, which includes the statement that the announcement of his death was delayed at his request, as well as the fact that he chose to share his diagnosis with very few people. Tell anyone who asks that Olivia chose to give up a legal right to know about his condition, and he chose not to share it with her. This is a good idea. Maybe even post it on your social media. Not the a-hole. You respected his final wishes. Once she divorced him, none of this was up to her, and showing up out of the blue without communicating with you is a bit of a boundary breach. This, you did as your brother asked. You were/are his family. She no longer was. Not her decision. Tell everyone they can kick rocks. It's none of their business. God, no. You have had so much tragedy in life. Off topic, but you're a super strong person. Not Dayhall at all. Once you're divorced, you're not owed a single thing from the other person or that person's family that doesn't involve shared children. You did what your brother asked, and that's all you needed to do. I'm sure she feels immense guilt, and is probably still traumatized by her own tragedy with the girls. Still, you didn't owe it to her to tell her anything. I'm so sorry you've seen so much tragedy in your life. Thank you. But my brother was always stronger than me. He took me while I was grieving and never complained. Took care of me like a parent. Cooked for me, helped with my homework. Took care of me while I was sick. Comforted me when I had my first heartbreak. And he worked his butt off to let me go to college without any debt. He never complained, not even once. He was indeed strong. Now, for the next story. Am I the a-hole for spending significantly more on my 18-year-old brother than I did on my younger siblings? So, I'm significantly older than my half-siblings. Long story short here, my mother died when I was in my mid-teens, and my dad took off with a woman literally half his age shortly after. The kids are 18 male, 14 female, and 12 male. Honestly, our dad is kind of a jerk in general. He's always been a bit of a hard A, very into the whole tough love, hands off, let my wife do all the work, I'll just be the disciplinarian approach to parenting. One of his more extreme/weird rules is that he expects all of his children to move out of his house within 3 months of turning 18. Now, this applied for me, but I had been left a significant inheritance by my mom and my grandpa when they both died. Plus, I had a good apprenticeship in the company I'm now a manager in. I could afford to move out and do so comfortably. My little brother was less fortunate. His only income was from a part-time job in a pub. Plus, he has some mental health issues, depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and I suspect an eating disorder, which make life harder for him. Plus, he turned 18 this year. I really thought Dad would be more lenient, but no, my brother still had to move out. He stayed with me for a while, then got put up in a flat by himself. He's honestly barely scraping by, and I wish he'd come back to mine. But that's a whole other thing in itself. All that to say, Kid has had a tough old year, and I wanted to do something to cheer him up for the Christmas. I managed to get him a PS5 and a couple of games for it, as well as a couple of other little treats. Plus, I paid a few months' rent for him to take the pressure off him for a while. I got a pretty generous Christmas bonus this year, so it wasn't like I bankrupted myself for him or anything. But it was still a significant amount to spend, and not something I could have done 3 times over. But I still did spend quite a bit on my younger siblings. My sister got a pair of Air Max she's wanted for ages. My brother got a Jack Wills coat, and they both got a few extras. I won't give exact figures, but I spent a couple of hundred each on the younger two in comparison to almost 2,000 on my oldest brother. I didn't bring it up, but somehow our dad and my stepmother found out, and now they're both pretty mad at me. They're accusing me of playing favorites and punishing my younger siblings because I'm mad at my dad. My stepmother is insistent that since the younger two are still kids, so there should be more focus on them for Christmas, and as an adult, my oldest brother should expect to get less. It's caused a huge rift, with neither of them speaking to me currently, and the 18-year-old feeling horribly guilty about it all. I'm wondering now if I screwed up purely because of how upset they are about it. Not Dayhall. What you do for your adult siblings isn't their business. I'm sure when the other two turn 18, you'll help them out if they need it. For future consideration, kids may perceive it to be unfair. You could give some things not as Christmas gifts, but just a nice gesture in another day, and give a comparable part of the gift on the holiday. That's the mad thing to me, is the kids don't seem to care. It's just my dad and stepmom who are bothered. Not Dayhall. I'm sorry for what your brother is going through, OP. You're so sweet to try to make him feel better. Everyone deserves to have a sibling that has their back like that. You were incredibly generous with all your siblings. The difference is the younger two have a roof over their heads and family around them still. I'm sure if they were having a rough time, you'd have been just as helpful with them. The fact is, they're not. You don't owe anyone anything just because someone, in this case dad and stepmom, says it's not fair. You didn't ignore the kids or get them nothing. You still got them very nice gifts. Not Dayhall. How you spend your money is none of their business. Chances are, they are afraid word will get out they're neglecting their struggling son in a year like this. This whole idea of forcing your kids to move out at 18 is ridiculous anyway. Just to rub it in, I tell them the PS5 was for Christmas and the rest was just because. I mean, if you really want to rub it in, be like, I just gave him the support he needed, even though he isn't my child. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not sharing my baby clothes and blankets with my husband's sister? I, 26 female, was pregnant with my son 6 months ago when I miscarried at 19 weeks, though I consider him stillborn, because he was so close to reaching the cutoff, but he didn't, and we didn't get to parent him. It has been so hard because my husband's sister was pregnant at the same time as me, and now she's due anytime now with her first child. We get along really well usually, until recently. My husband's sister and her husband had some property issues that ended up leading to most of their baby stuff getting destroyed, and during COVID, he lost his job, so they have less money. My husband's sister asked us if we could let them have the clothes we bought our son, as well as the blankets I made for him, because those are the things they still need. My husband had already gone out to buy a couple of clothes items for the baby to help, but we're not ready to say goodbye to the stuff yet, and we told them that. She was angry and not understanding. She said we were the least helpful in their hour of need, and how could we deny our future niece or nephew some clothes and a blanket? My husband told her it's not like our son simply outgrew them, and she fired back that he's never going to wear them, but her child could. She told me she was especially pissed at me, as a mom, not doing what I could for a child. I feel guilty and angry and jealous a little. She's so far along now, and I didn't make it that far with my son, and I am struggling more because I feel so bad. I am also in between therapists because the therapist I saw up until November quit out of nowhere from the practice, and I haven't meshed with anyone else since. And I can feel the fracture in the family because of this, but at the same time, I'm just not ready to get rid of anything or change anything in the room yet. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. She doesn't get to decide how you grieve or what you are ready to give up now, or ever. I am so sorry for the loss of your son. You keep all of his items that you want off whoever lot you need to. Keep them for your next baby if you want. You certainly don't owe them to sister-in-law. Exactly. No one is ever entitled someone else's things too. Even if OP never wanted kids again, it's 100% her choice if she wants to give them to someone. Not the a-hole. She can screw right off with her attitude. It's rich how she acts like if you don't give her the blanket you literally made for your child, that will mean she has no way of ever having any blanket for her child. There are plenty of charity organizations that she could get baby stuff from in their hour of need. She doesn't need yours. And she fired back that he's never going to wear them, but her child could. She told me she was especially pissed at me, as a mom, not doing what I could for a child. And I am especially pissed at you, because as a mom, you should know how freaking devastating it would be to lose a child during pregnancy. And then having people demanding the baby things and saying things like that are completely heartless. Edited to add, I'm so sorry for your loss. Hugs. Not a a-hole. Your sister-in-law has no right to demand the things you bought and made with love for your little baby. You are still grieving the terrible loss you experienced, and it's okay to want to hold on to mementos, especially the blankets you made him. Your sister can ask for donations, but she cannot demand them from anyone. She should back off, and her comment was really out of line. I wish you and your husband good luck in your journey. Hopefully, you will find a new therapist soon. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe.